Celine partnering with Lisa from Blackpink has basically revitalized the brand to a different level to reach a different consumer. And these luxury houses, I think, are looking to move away from the older, more established generation of consumers, and they're looking to reach the younger, more connected via the internet or whatever it may be, the social media generation. Hello everyone, my name is Thor and welcome back to Anthorpology. Thank you for joining me in today's video. If this is your first time here, welcome. I hope you enjoy your stay. On this channel, I talk all about things fashion related, luxury shopping, analyzing things within the fashion industry, and mindful consumption habits. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, please consider subscribing, like this video if you want to, comment anything down below. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. So glad you're here in this one. Comment down below, let me know you're watching this one as well. Today's video, podcast style, so put me on in the background, plug me in, grab a coffee, fold some laundry. This one will be the Kpopification of luxury fashion. Excuse the fan in the background, it is currently heatwave central in Vancouver. The Kpopification of luxury fashion. What do I mean by that? What does that mean? Is it even a thing? I'll be breaking this video down into a few separate parts, explaining this topic, going through my thoughts as well as some resources that I found. I want to talk about why this is happening, when this started, basically the origins through the Korean wave, which is a cultural phenomenon. I'll be getting into the different brands and the different idols, which is the Korean version of like a pop star or like a celebrity, how these brands and these individuals, groups are partnering together. I'll also get into a little discussion about why these people were selected, or a little bit about my thoughts and opinions on that. And then just a little bit of a discussion around the K-pop industry versus Western music, Western celebrity culture, how the two are different, and maybe why brands are deciding to go more with the K-pop groups, the Korean groups, the Asian groups over the North American or the Western groups. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, please keep watching. Okay, so I wanted to start this video off with a little backdrop of why there has been such an increase in the popularity of South Korean culture and the different things that come along with it: food, dress, music, entertainment, television. In the late sort of 90s, the Korean wave phenomena sort of started, where there was a large export of Korean cultural markers to the West, to outside nations, where the Korean pop culture really started to gain favor internationally. There's been a lot of studies on this. I am not an expert. I don't know that much about the ins and outs of the Korean wave. I just know that it was the start of when South Korean culture, pop culture specifically, really started to gain roots and gain traction internationally. So what this means is basically South Korean culture really started to take off. As we know, Western culture or North American culture, European culture really seems to be the global, I guess, mainstay or the global leader in terms of pop culture. We know that's for a lot of reasons dating back to colonialism, but through the Korean wave, Asian culture, South Korean culture specifically, really started to gain popularity elsewhere outside of Korea. So that's just like a little brief of it, as sort of the start of this whole phenomenon, sort of leading us to where we're at today. But a lot of brands have taken notice of this as Korean culture, specifically K-pop groups such as like Blackpink, BTS, Twice, Red Velvet, among various others, as well as different K-dramas. Specifically, most recently, I would say Squid Game has really taken over and really caught a lot of people's attention internationally. So it's not a new phenomenon by any means, but a lot of luxury fashion brands are really getting on this train of signing different K-pop stars, different Korean drama celebrities to be global ambassadors for their brands. I am a lover of K-pop. I am a lover of K-dramas. I was learning Korean at one point for like 100 days on Duolingo. You know, I'm sorry y'all, but it's hard. I couldn't keep up with it. But basically, I am a fan of Korean culture and I rode the Korean wave. So I'm gonna get a little bit into it, sort of the brands and the idols that are a part of this. The most notorious group, I would say, is Blackpink. Blackpink is a South Korean girl group made up of 4 members. There is Jisoo, Rose, Jennie, and Lisa. They've been around, I think, since 2016. I'm not sure on the exact date that they have debuted. They have a few very popular songs. They have one album that they released, I believe last year or maybe the year before, called The Album. And it was great. They have been making their rounds. They are basically at this point models more than they are performers or singers, but they have been the most prevalent within this marketing strategy. I would say the most popular member is Lisa. So Lalisa, she is the only ambassador for Celine. Celine Heiselman specifically picked Lisa to be the global ambassador. She has been prevalent in a variety of different campaigns. She was actually in 2 shows. So she was in the most recent show, and then she was in the spring summer one before as well. She was the one to launch the Ava bag, bring it back and bring it to the forefront again. She was also now the face of their perfume line. So Lisa is becoming synonymous with Celine. She is really heavy in their marketing. She's the only ambassador that the house has. And I just find that so interesting. The house has a long history. It has rarely picked people to portray or push the product, but it has very heavily focused on Lisa from Blackpink to be the one to do that. Lisa is not exclusive with Celine. A lot of these idols will have various contracts under them, but none of the contracts overlap with one another, which I think is interesting. So Lisa specifically is the global ambassador for Celine, as I mentioned before, but she is also the Korean ambassador for Bulgari. She was at one of their most recent events, very popular on WeChat. Also, the next one I would say is Jennie. Jennie is colloquially known as Human Chanel. She is one of the faces of Chanel. She was the face of their Coco Neige campaign. She's also one of the ambassadors for Calvin Klein. Next, I would say we have Rose. Rose is signed to Saint Laurent as well as Tiffany & Co. She was one of the faces of their new, I believe, what is it called? The Hard Rock or something. It was their more industrial style of jewelry. She was the face of that. She had a huge billboard in Times Square. And then also, obviously, she's the face of Saint Laurent, so she attends a lot of their fashion shows. They all wear these brands when they do cover shoots, when they do magazine photo shoots. Lisa will almost always be in Celine, Rose will almost always be in Saint Laurent, Jennie in Chanel, and then the last member of the group, but not the least, is Jisoo. She is the global ambassador for Dior. So she is the face, and she was basically the one to launch the DJoy bag in Asia. So a lot of these girl groups, they basically have exclusive contracts with these brands. The brands don't work with other members, but they really push the product. They're the first ones to be seen with the newest bags, with the newest collections, front row at the fashion show. One of the directors for Dior came up to Jisoo in one of the videos. It's filmed on YouTube, and he told her that if she ever didn't want to be a singer anymore or a performer, that she would have a home at Dior as one of their ambassadors. And that just goes to show how ingrained she is in the brand. She's also the face of their makeup. So it's interesting that these Western brands are really promoting, pushing, and utilizing these K-pop idols to be their global ambassadors all around the world, not just in Asia. Now, this is not an exclusive list. There's a lot of other brands on here that work with different idols. So BTS has signed exclusively with Louis Vuitton. They had released a statement previously saying that they were not going to sign with anybody, but Louis Vuitton managed to get that contract with them. Also, Irene, which is the leader of the group Red Velvet, she has signed with Prada and Miu Miu, so she was the face of one of their campaigns. She also was flown to Paris to be at the fashion show. Miu Miu is an interesting one. I find they have really taken this, so they used one of the actresses from Squid Game in their most recent campaign, and then they also are working heavily with Wonyoung from IVE, who was formerly a part of IZ*ONE. So she's been a part of their campaigns, or she wears the clothes in their music video. They had a whole section where all of them, a part of the group, were wearing the new Miu Miu sort of cropped outfits. So the level of press that these brands are getting through just showing up in the music videos, through showing up in the different magazine covers, the photo shoots that these artists are doing, is unprecedented compared to the Western music industry. So the K-pop, or the Korean Business Research Institute, actually releases a report compiling the number of impressions. So they have a list of 579 girl group members that they will rank against one another. The number one for June was Joy from Red Velvet, and she had over 3 million impressions, and the next was Jennie from Blackpink, and she had 2.8 million impressions. And this is just in Korea, let alone globally. So the reach that these K-pop idols have within Asia, which is, we'll get into it later, but they have so much reach compared to Western artists, it makes sense why these brands are using them. Why luxury and K-pop idols? What is the connection between the two? So Asia is the largest growing and the fastest growing market for luxury consumer goods globally. Previously, it was America. America has sort of slumped. Mainland China, South Korea, and Japan have really started to overtake the West in terms of the pace that they are purchasing luxury goods, as well as the amount of luxury goods that are circulating within the market. So it's no surprise to anybody within this space that mainland China is the number one sort of consumer market and the fastest consumer market globally, as well for luxury goods. So it would make sense then that they would primarily utilize and really focus on that region and the celebrities within that region. I do find it interesting that even though mainland China is the fastest growing consumer market, we don't see as many Chinese ambassadors. It's mostly focusing on Korea. I also want to focus a bit on aespa as a group. So aespa is, they're a newer group. They're a part of SM Entertainment, which is the same company that handles Red Velvet's work, and they are signed as a group, so as a 4-member group, to Givenchy. And Givenchy has not had an ambassador in recent years, let alone signing on a whole group as their ambassadors. Givenchy is very prevalent within their music videos now. They are prevalent within their magazine covers, and they are being pushed and they are pushing the product respectively. So it's a really good crossover, I think, as well for these K-pop idols to gain exposure to different markets and to become associated with luxury goods, to be associated with that level of status. So I wanted to get into a little bit why these people, and I think just looking at the number of impressions and I think the internet age is big on K-pop celebrities. K-pop as an industry, the idols, they know how to utilize social media, and they utilize it probably better than anybody else. The amount of support from their fan groups is astronomical. Like the BTS army, they are known to be quite intense, as well as the Blinks from Blackpink. It's interesting, not all large groups will participate in this marketing strategy or association collaboration. Twice is arguably one of the largest groups, not even arguably, they are one of the largest groups in Korea and globally promoting K-pop music, but they do not have the same level of partnership with the luxury brands. Maybe because there's a lot of them, I'm just not sure. I definitely think it's interesting that luxury brands will either pick solo artists, so like Kai, for example, IU, for example, using Gucci, or the leaders of the groups, so like Irene from Red Velvet with Prada. Wonyoung is not a leader, but she's the most famous person from IVE, and it makes sense, I guess, why she has been promoting Miu Miu. I want to get a little bit into K-pop versus the West, so like how the different industries operate differently. K-pop is much more structured from the beginning. There is auditions, there is training periods. Oftentimes they will be trainees for years before they debut as a group. Then once they debut as a group, it is heavily produced. There's often songs picked for them, concepts, and they are more or less performing that, and the contracts are a little bit shorter. Whereas in the West, there's a much more, I would say, like creative freedom within the music that they choose. It's less so, I guess, like focused on like the commercial aspects, more so focused on the creativity, connecting with the audience and whatnot. So I guess it makes sense from that standpoint as well, that since the production level is so much higher in the K-pop industry, that these luxury brands would be focusing on these groups because they know they're going to get a very tailored image. Image in the K-pop industry is basically everything. They cancel people over if someone was canceled for the things that they're canceled for in Korea, you know, everyone would be canceled in the West, basically. A lot of people get kicked out of groups for alleged bullying in like high school and middle school because the trainees are often very young and they debut quite young as well. So the image that these houses are getting through partnering with these idols is something that's very tailored, it's very clean, and it's very like prim and proper. Everything is where it should be. They know what they're gonna get. They know the reach that they're gonna have because there's so much data and analytics gathered on them that it's like a win-win situation. There's gonna be very little controversy. They're not gonna have to pull away because there's so many restrictions placed on these idols. For example, Blackpink in an interview, they said that they can't drink, they can't really drive, they can't really associate with, like they can't date very much. So the image that this clean, proper image that is being fostered within the K-pop industry will lend itself very well to luxury houses, especially in the West where people are acting sort of, you know, any which way and cancel culture is rampant. So I think that's another reason why these luxury houses are choosing to go and promote and select K-pop idols as brand ambassadors. What do you think about the whole brand ambassador thing? I love it. I mean, as someone that likes K-pop, and I've liked K-pop before, I think since 2017 is when I really started to get into it. And then recently, as I've been exploring, you know, my love for luxury fashion as well, and then seeing the two sort of collide and overlap has been very interesting for me. But what do you think? Does celebrity promoting different things influence your buying habits in any which way? I mean, another YouTuber here, Maggie Chu, she basically said that she bought the Ava because Lisa from Blackpink had it, as well as like the Celine Boston bag. Celine partnering with Lisa from Blackpink has basically revitalized the brand to a different level to reach a different consumer. And these luxury houses, I think, are looking to move away from the older, more established generation of consumers, and they're looking to reach the younger, more connected via the internet or whatever it may be, the social media generation with these goods. And these K-pop idols are the face of that future, and they are reaching that consumer group. So yeah, that's my video. Let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I hope to see you all next time. Bye guys.